Okay, so feet hip distance apart. Let's aim to keep the knees equal distance apart as you move. It's a small movement, so deliberately allow yourself to move in that small range. You're going to exhale to tilt the pelvis back towards you as if you're pouring water over your chest. Inhale, scoop the water back up into your bucket and tilt the pelvis in the opposite direction. Exhale, rocking it backwards. You're going to tilt as if you're about to lift the tailbone, but you're going to keep it connected. Rock that pelvis away, creating a little arch in your lower back. Rock back towards you on the exhale. And inhale, roll away. Moving on from there then, on the exhale, you're going to make it last all the way up into the bridge, squeezing into your buttocks to lift those hips from the floor. And as you inhale, drop from the breastbone, segment by segment, until the tailbone is the last thing back to the ground. We're going to give you a little prop to keep those knees aligned. So you're going to squeeze the block between your knees, roll your way up to the bridge, squeeze into those glutes, and inhale, rolling down from the breastbone, dropping the spine, segment by segment, and allowing some mobility. As you exhale, squeeze those knees together. That will fire up those inner thigh muscles, help you connect with your pelvic floor. And inhale, roll down from the breastbone, taking it segment by segment until the tailbone is the last thing to hit the floor. Breathe in, feel your ribcage expand and your belly rise. As you exhale, think about gathering your abdominal muscles in towards the centre and create that additional effort by squeezing your knees onto the block. Inhale, soften the effort here, let breath into the system. Exhale, think of a corset gathering itself around your centre, and the more you squeeze those knees, the more you'll be able to fire up that midline tension. Inhale, breathe into the system, let the chest and the belly expand. Exhale to connect to your core, firing the system up with that squeeze between the knees as you do so. Really nice work. Stretching down this front line of the body will obviously influence the scar. So if the scar is still feeling quite tight, we'll show you some modifications. Draw this heel towards your bottom, take hold of it with your hand and give yourself that stretch through the front line here. If this stretch feels too intense through this front line of the body at this point, let's give you a modification. Let's pop a loop. You could use a dressing gown or a belt and just wrap it around the ankle. That will lessen the depth of the stretch and still allow you to start to introduce movement in that plane. Rolling your knees from side to side, preparation for helping you get in and out of bed, and we'll start to give you some movement in that direction across your lower tummy. Keep your knees and your ankles together like they're bolted together. So as you roll the knees in one direction, both soles of the feet should show so that you feel that stretch across the lower tummy rather than lower down the leg. Exhale to bring yourself back to center. The weight of the legs is there, so there is a little bit of core work to happen. Breathe in, rock the knees in one direction, keep those knees and ankles stacked. As you exhale, gather the abdominal muscles towards you to help support the weight of the knees coming back to center. Really nice. The pelvic tilt you've already been introduced to, but let's practice it in different positions. You're going to imagine that you've got a tail. You're going to tuck that tail down between the knees, squeezing the buttocks to allow that to happen. Now flick that tail up towards the ceiling, trying to isolate that movement to this lower half of the body without the upper half having to round and move to accommodate it. Tuck that tailbone down between the knees, and then flick that tail up towards the ceiling. When you isolate that movement to this lower part of the body, you'll gain much more awareness of that lower abdominal effort working. And those are the muscles that are often slow to switch back on for us after a C-section. So early introduction to some awakening exercises is a great idea. After those early engagement exercises, these are the next set that I'd introduce nowhere before 4 to 6 weeks. Giving you the block just increases your connection through your center line and allows you to feel a little bit more engagement through your core. You're going to take a breath in, letting that breath come into your belly and your chest. As you exhale, think of that corset wrapping itself around your center. And if you squeeze your palms against the edges of the block, you'll be able to deepen that level of effort. When you inhale, soften your pressure against the block, let the breath into the body. And as you exhale, gather the abdomen around you, squeeze into the sides of the block and see if you can lift pelvic floor to join into. Breathe in, soften these, let go of the pelvic floor, breath into the belly. Exhale, wrap that corset, lift the pelvic floor and squeeze both sides. Really well done. You're going to now add a little bit more movement in. So I'm going to ask you to float a leg. If you take the block and you place your opposite hand against the edge of the block, you can modify this with a rolled towel or something that you have available at home. So breathing in, breath comes into the belly. The exhale combines with the press of the hand and the knee in towards each end of the block. As you inhale, just soften your effort, but of course the block has to stay where it is, so we're not moving the hand and the leg. Exhale, use that connection through the block to deepen your engagement of the core. Inhale to release. And exhale to wrap, lift into pelvic floor and sustain that until you've run out of breath. Repeat a few times on this side and then switch and do the same on the other side. Exactly the same theory here, but we've changed the position, so we're getting used to engaging the core in a variety of different positions and places. You're going to breathe in deeply, taking that breath into the chest and the belly. As you exhale, push that hand down on top of the block to create an additional sense of power and connection as you wrap the core. Breathe in, soften away, allow yourself to let breath into the belly. As you exhale, think of two magnets, gather in together underneath the belly button and press down into the block to create that effort. Inhale to release and exhale to engage. And similar to the previous exercises, you repeat this a few times and then you turn and do the same on the other side. Building strength into your glutes to stabilise the pelvis, but also to give support to the pelvic floor is a really important part of your postpartum recovery. Keeping your knees bent, angle your ankles so that they are in line with your hips and your shoulders, and imagine a headlight beaming out of your pelvis to a point on the wall straight ahead of you. As you exhale, squeeze the heels together, grip into the back pocket muscle where the back pocket of your jeans would normally rest to open that knee towards the ceiling. Inhale to lower that knee all the way back down to rest on top of the other. We're looking to isolate this movement in the lower half of the body. So as you lift that knee, be cautious that the top half isn't starting to roll back with you. Ellie's super strong, so she's getting a really nice range of motion here. But if you're earlier on in your recovery, a much smaller range in that clam is absolutely fine to start with. Repeat until you feel fatigued on this side and turn and do the same on the other. We're working on a hip thrust, which differs from a bridge that you've done previously because we're looking for a little bit of speed and power here. So on the exhale, I want you to really gather those glutes and thrust the hips towards the ceiling. Inhale to drop and exhale to thrust. So the upwards movement is speedy and powerful, and the inhale can take a little longer. Exhale to powerfully uplift the hips and inhale to drop down. Do a couple more of those, find your rhythm. And now you're starting to introduce some quick, snappy movements that will encourage the pelvic floor to react when you cough or sneeze or jump later on.
Yep.
Adding some stretch through the front of the hip, you're going to come into this split kneeling stance. And if you shift your weight slightly further forwards, you'll feel that stretch come up through the front of your leg. And you can hold the pose, breathing steadily through it, and just allow yourself to spend 20 to 30 seconds in that position. You can make that work for you by going deeper into the stretch or softening off by easing backwards, whatever feels right for you. Take a deep breath at the bottom. As we exhale, you're going to do a quick snappy pop up to the top, and then inhale, sending that tailbone to find your toes behind you. Exhale, that snappy pop to the top, getting those glutes working. Inhale to come down. See if you can connect to the pelvic floor and the lower abdominals at the same time. And don't worry if at first this takes a little bit of time to get that connection. Inhale, set yourself back. Exhale, squeeze the glutes, lift the pelvic floor and wrap that core across your center. Really lovely. You're aiming for 10.